Hello, and welcome to the Unpacked and Empowered Plus Finances podcast, a space where we dive into personal growth, financial empowerment, and real stories from fellow newcomers navigating life in Canada. This podcast is your go to for self improvement tips, financial literacy, and authentic conversations with inspiring individuals, whether they're building businesses, managing careers, or sharing their expert insights to uplift our communities.
Before we proceed, I just want to give out a disclaimer as well that this episode shares personal experiences and general education information. It does not constitute financial advice, so please consult with qualified financial professionals for your personalized guidance specific to your situation. Hello, and welcome to Unpacked and Empowered Plus Finances. I am Marian, your host, and if you're new here, welcome to the show. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm very grateful that you're here again. Today, we're diving into something I wish someone has explained to me years ago. It's about emergency funds. Before you think, oh, I've heard this before, stick with me because we're going to unpack this differently. And that's in a way that's simple, doable, and rooted in the idea that we are called to be faithful stewards, not fearful reactors. How many times have we heard about someone in our community whose family or loved ones back home needed urgent financial help? I remember a few years ago when a family member in the Philippines had a medical condition. The operation was covered by government benefits, but there were still costs involved, like food for the caregiver, medicines bought outside the hospital, transportation, those kinds of things. And we've also had smaller things that come up. I remember there was a time when we were in a trip and we had to fix a rock chip on the windshield after sudden tire repairs because of a nail puncture, because life happens. And if you've ever had to deal with that kind of expense without savings, you know how stressful it can be. If you're a newcomer to Canada, a millennial figuring out adulting, or someone who feels like you're always financially playing catch up, this episode is for you. An emergency fund isn't just money in an account, it's peace of mind. It's sleeping better because you know you're ready for life's what ifs. So, we are going to be diving into what is an emergency fund, why your why matters more than the numbers, the real challenges, especially for us newcomers, and we also would like to know how much and where to keep it, building it realistically, when and how to use it, and maintaining your why. So, what is an emergency fund really? Let's keep it simple. An emergency fund is your financial cushion for when life throws a curveball, and trust me, it will. According to the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, this is money set aside only for unexpected expenses, not holiday gifts, not back to school shopping. Let me give you some real life examples. Your car breaks down the same week your rent is due. You get laid off and need time to find work. How about if your laptop dies during an exam week and a big project is due, as well as when a family emergency back home needs urgent help, or maybe your wisdom teeth decided to make an unscheduled appearance. Without an emergency fund, most people turn to credit cards, line of credit, or even payday loans. Sometimes it's not even our emergencies and it's someone we love, and then the guilt creeps in if we're not able to help. Here's the key difference from regular savings: you don't touch this unless it's a genuine life happens moment. Not for vacations, not for sale items, not for upgrades. Let's talk about why your why matters more than the numbers. Before we talk about amounts, let's talk about motivation. Because without a personal reason to save, sticking to it would feel like a chore. And I like using the five whys method to dig deeper into why we save and why we spend. Let me give you an example. On the saving side, I would ask myself first, why do I want an emergency fund? My answer would be, so I don't have to stress over surprise expenses. And then, why does financial stress affect me? Because growing up, emergencies meant conflict and anxiety. And why don't I want to repeat that? Because I want stability and peace. Now, why is stability important? Because it gives me freedom to make wise, generous choices. And why does that freedom matter? Because to me, I want to be able to help others without hurting my own future. Now, if you use that on the spending side as well, it would help you determine why you buy the things that you buy, fix it instead of the retail therapy. So, first ask yourself, why did you buy that dress? Or I'll just example myself. Why did I buy that at Marshall's? And then you ask yourself 5 times until you reach the root cause. So, this actually gives you a reflection prompt. Why? Is it not having to borrow from family, helping friends without debt, sleeping without money worries, or having choices in a crisis? Because for me, in the Philippines, floods hit our home more than once. We couldn't afford repairs, so we lived with the problem until it got worse. Emergencies meant asking relatives for help. And while I'm grateful for this generosity, I don't want my children to live in that same cycle. God has always provided, sometimes through people, but I believe He also calls us to be prepared. Now, what are the real challenges, especially for newcomers? Many financial gurus don't address the complexity of immigrant life. There's this multiple family challenge that you might be the breadwinner here and back home. You might be supporting siblings through school, or you may have both Canadian expenses and even obligations abroad. I've seen it happen. Sometimes someone would lose a loved one back home and fly home for the funeral unplanned. Without savings, the trip is paid through a mix of credit cards, loans, and sometimes payday lenders. Having an emergency fund makes you better at helping others. We want to be able to help from a place of strength and not from survival. I want you to reflect on the patterns as well. How did your parents handle emergencies when you were younger? Did they bring the family together or cause conflict? What beliefs about money did you inherit? I want you to take the good lessons forward and replace the ones that don't serve your future. Now, let's talk about how much and where we want to keep our emergency fund. So, a lot of the people that I talk to, even myself, when I was beginning this financial journey, had a hard time. So, we want to start small. I would recommend actually going with either the first 500 or first 1,000 if you don't have anything started yet. So, this is for the beginners. So for me, I had to step out of my stable job because I decided to study and enter into this new industry. I was able to make that decision because I have something as a cushion, but now I have to rebuild it again. How did I do that? I did it with aiming for at least $1,000, which could cover my car insurance deductible. When I was able to reach it, it brought me so much joy because it's a positive thing that happened. Now, if you're someone who's achieved $500 or even $1,000 already, you'd want to focus on 1 month's essential expenses. By essential, we mean the things that you need to live well. Thirdly, you'd want to think about 3 to 6 months of expenses. How stable is your job? Are you single? Do you live at your parents' house? Or are you a breadwinner? It would all depend on your personal situation. How much emergency fund should you have? Or even maybe you're a business owner, or maybe you're an immigrant who decided you want to start a business. You need a higher amount of emergency fund to keep the business going. Now, let's talk about the essentials. By essentials, I mean your housing, whether it's your rent or your mortgage, groceries, transportation, insurance, minimum debt payments, your phone bill because you need to have that communication, and regular family support you give if you're someone who does that. Now, where would you want to keep it? I would recommend that it has to be separate from your daily spending. It has to be something not always accessible to you. Like when you open your bank account for your paycheck, it's not something that you would see the amount right away because it tricks you into thinking, oh, I can probably buy something else with this money. But that's the emergency fund. So I want you to be able to separate that from your daily spending, make it accessible without penalties, and ideally in a high interest savings account. And there are options for that as well. That's not usually in your brick and mortar bank. Also, keep in mind that when you're saving for an emergency fund, it can't be a risky investment. Now, I want to share how you can build your emergency fund realistically. The first thing that helped me rebuild my $1,000 emergency fund is the round down rule. Some might say it's the remainder saver. Every payday, you would round down to the nearest hundred and save the extra. For example, let's say I get paid $841 a week. I would save the $41 per week to the emergency fund. Over a year, that would be over $2,000 without even feeling deprived. And a lot of people would say to pay yourself first, which you move the money to your emergency fund before paying the bills. And some would even just set aside some savings portion, like some would save 10% or 20% of their income, and then the rest, they don't do budgeting. Whatever it is that they could spend from the remainder, that's what they would spend on. But at least you know that you've already saved. And then the third one would be to make sure that you automate it, automate your savings. Set up weekly transfers, even if it's $25 a week, it could be $1,300 a year. Set up something like a direct deposit so that it transfers automatically into your emergency building account. Now, number four, find the leaks. We go back to the five whys method. We want to figure out why we overspend and we want to figure out why we need to save. Asking those five whys is going to help really for motivation as well. The next thing would be capturing windfalls. For example, if you get bonuses in a year, so some people would get quarterly bonuses, or maybe you're getting a big amount of tax refund. So, what I would recommend is to send at least half of that amount into your emergency fund or savings fund. One thing you could do is to replace installment payments with savings. So this is, for example, when you have an installment payment that you've signed up in the past and it's almost a few weeks left or a few months left, you're already used to allotting that money to that specific thing. Why not save that money going forward to your emergency fund because you've already built the habit of not spending that money anyway? And lastly, side hustles. Now, while I'm not a fan of side hustle culture, sometimes we just have to do this, maybe for a few weeks, for a few months, just to build a safety net. And if it's something that you love to do, why not go ahead and push through with it? But if it's something that drains your energy, I would only recommend it for a few months or a few weeks just to make sure that you build something as an emergency fund. Now, let's talk about when and how to use it. So, what are the emergencies really? The emergencies would include job loss, medical expenses not covered by insurance, essential repairs, urgent family crisis. Emergencies happen. Then, if you use it, you have to find a way to rebuild it as soon as you can. Now, lastly, I want to talk about maintaining your why and going back again because this is your motivation to be able to stick to it. So, check in monthly, ask yourself why before dipping in, and keep an accountability partner. Now, remember, this isn't hoarding money in fear, this is stewardship. It's saying, I'm ready because I trust God to give me wisdom and I've done my part. Building an emergency fund isn't just a money habit, it's a posture of peace. It's space between you and panic. Every dollar saved is a little more freedom. Every transfer is you choosing preparation over pressure. Now, for me, having an emergency fund has meant I can face sudden expenses without losing sleep. A cushion allowed me to transition to studies and what I do now. We're currently rebuilding our finances in hopes that we will not only help ourselves, but also say yes to helping someone without wrecking my own budget. That's a blessing I want for you too. So, your homework is do the five whys for your emergency fund, set up your first transfer, even if it's just $10. Thank you for joining me today in Unpacked and Empowered Finances. If this has helped you, share it with someone you love. And remember, you've got this $1 at a time.